Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk all about butter. Okay. We have a Jersey cow in milk. She just had a calf. I know a lot of you know that. I've been telling stories about that, but she just had a calf about a little over 2 weeks ago. We have so much milk, and the milk has been much more, there's been more butter fat since she calved. And so I have been making butter. And I want to talk about butter today because I know many of you are on board with eating more butter and you know how good it is for you. But I want to kind of, really um, encourage you to continue along this path and why. I'm going to talk about why it's important to continue along this path with regard to butter. And if you have any naysayers or people in your life who are like, butter's good, but I should only eat maybe a teaspoon, a couple tablespoons a day. Hopefully this episode will help dissolve limitations around your intake of butter. So, this is a food that we really need to be eating more of, and a lot of people are starting to eat more of. And I'm going to talk about why you need to include it into your diet more, how it supports health, why it's one of the healthiest fats on the planet. And I'm also going to get into how it supports metabolic health, how it supports hormone health, blood sugar levels, its relationship with cholesterol and vitamin D, which are vital to our physiology, to our longevity. And honestly, many people's jaw drop when I tell them I eat about a stick of butter per day. Now, I don't say, hey, wake up, and I'm like, gotta get my stick of butter in today. I let this process happen more organically. And, many people can get super rigid about their diet. And while I think it's important to have a container and to have structure in our lives and around our diet to an extent, whenever we get super rigid and dogmatic about anything, including diet, well, this is when healing turns into um, takes a turn, and it no longer becomes healing. It now starts to veer into the land of OCD, pathology, fear, etc. And so, when it comes to diet, especially when we get super rigid and strict, like many of the fad diets encourage, then we've lost all the healing properties that diet has to offer. So, I eat around a stick of butter a day. I don't measure this out. I just notice at the end of the day that the butter dish is empty and needs to be refilled. That's my gauge. Now, butter is my main fat source. I cook with it almost every meal. It's my main cooking fat. And it's my main cooking fat for a reason. Unlike liquid oils, whatever that liquid oil may be, liquid oils, no matter what the label says grapeseed oil has high heat tolerance. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have any cholesterol. It doesn't have any saturated fat. And that immediately negates it from having a high heat tolerance without going rancid. So these gimmicks and on the labels and these claims are absolute. You have to know a little bit about molecules, the structures of fats, the structures of oils, and so forth to know, hey, is this really heat tolerant or not? And so if something, if there's an oil that's, liquid or can be liquid at room temperature, just by it being a plant, plants do not contain cholesterol. Okay, even coconut oil, yes, it contains saturated fats, but it does not contain cholesterol. They will naturally have a lower smoke point. That's a whole other conversation because vegetable oils in and of themselves are typically rancid when they're just sitting in the shelf, um, in the bottle, and before you even add heat to it. So adding heat to liquid oils or plant oils is like adding fuel to the fire, and everybody's gung ho for avocado oil. And I did an episode a while back on why I'm not a proponent of avocado oil. I want to have fats and oils in my diet that give me the most bang for my buck from a nutritional standpoint. And plant oils just don't offer that. It's not that I like hate plants or I'm being an asshole about plants, it's like I love cooking. Compared to my wife, you could call me a chef, and she would say the same exact thing. It's hard for her to make toast, but and what comes with that is I really enjoy cooking with plant foods and eating plant foods. But I make animal fats and animal protein the basis of my diet. I cook them in a way that are delicious and nourishing because they offer the most bang for our buck when it comes to boils down to from a nutritional standpoint. So, um, this is butter's obviously who doesn't like butter? It's delicious. It's my main fat source. I encourage it to be your main fat source if you're able to do so. It has a higher heat tolerance because of the stable saturated fats and cholesterol contained within butter. And I'm going to talk more about this as we deep dive into the episode. And so, unlike liquid oils, these saturated fats and cholesterol particularly is not found in plant foods, but cholesterol helps to preserve the fat soluble vitamins, the minerals, the nutrients within food. And this includes butter. So you get all of these nutritional benefits when you eat butter. Now, I sense that if you're listening to this podcast, that you're all in when it comes to butter, and that you're likely eating your fair share of butter. But if there's a little voice in the back of your mind, like, oh, Uncle Harry died of a heart attack, so I really should restrict my butter intake, or I really got to be cautious here. But damn, it tastes so good. It's total horseshit. If you're eating good grass-fed butter, the link to heart disease and hardening of the arteries is based on flawed science and absolute, a different agenda, which has nothing to do with health. As an aside, um, last week on my Instagram story, I posted a quick little 1 minute video of me doing a little homeschool session with my niece, and she began the homeschool session by reading me something on and if this is going on YouTube, they'll take it down. Raz Kids, it's some absolute brainwashed um site that teaches kids absolute nonsense. And so she was reading part of this nonsense to me, which included how we should really start to eat more bugs and support bug and insect farming, and basically how we need to move away from eating beef because they are such a huge producer of an emitter of the carbon emissions and contributing to global warming. And therefore, this is the article that was on this site, which is a like educational site for children. And she's reading this to me, and I recorded it. I was like, wait, 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 hold on. Can we record this? Because I want to share it with other people. I want to really share that this is the horse shit they're jamming down our kids' throats. Okay. And so I recorded this, I put it up on my story. And the next day, when I was started to reply to my homeopathic clients with regard to, hey, this is how I want you to take your remedy. These are the instructions. How's it going? If I mentioned anything healing, homeopathy, how to take dosage, etc., it literally, and I had a Gmail account. This is from my Gmail email, and blocked, wouldn't send it, just blocked it. And then I had like 20 emails that have all been blocked. So yesterday was fun because I'm like, okay. I was like, why suddenly? Why suddenly did they start to like come in and block my emails? And literally I sent some tests like to my wife and to other people that didn't include anything about healing or homeopathy. Went through just fine, no problem. Okay. So they have me pegged, and I was thinking all day yesterday, I was like, why the F suddenly did this happen? Like, is it just by chance they started to block my emails with, you know, and so yesterday I spent the whole day, okay, let me get a non-censored email, which if you're looking for something like that, go to Proton. Yes, you have to pay like a monthly or yearly subscription. It's super low. And if you're somebody who's in the healing world, or you like to discuss and have open conversations with people you converse through with over email, that could be a good option, because this censoring is it's blowing my mind. Like, it's always been there, but the heightened commie state it's getting to is really, honestly, it's kind of scary, and it's unsettling, and it's like, you're going to try to restrict how I communicate with my clients who are seeking out healing that is non-toxic, and they're really trying to do something good for their lives. So anyway, I got a non-censored email on Proton, and I signed up for that. And so if you're somebody else who's looking for that, or you ever bump up against these issues, that's a good resource. And so my new email, if any of you, I'll be putting it out more and more, but it's sunlight_rx@proton.me. Okay. So anyway, before I'm getting ready for bed, I get out of the shower last night, and I was like, oh shit, they didn't like what I said about Raz kids on my story, and now they've heightened their eyes on they've glued their eyes on me. Now I'm on their radar even more. It's like, I don't want to have to think about these things. If somebody doesn't resonate with what I say or like what I say, then fine. We all are drawn to certain people, and learning from certain people, and connecting and being in community and relationship with certain people, and everybody's not for everybody. So it's like, just don't, if you don't like it, then just unfollow me. Just don't listen. But the people who do, it's like, you know, it's just it's intense, the state that the censorship is getting to. But anyway, I bet I wanted to share that with you, because for one, you'll start receiving email if you're my client, or you reach out for a session or something of this nature. um my emails will now be coming from my new account, for one. For two, this is the information they're teaching our kids, which is absolutely ridiculous. So if you have any kids out there, if you guys have kids, we need a strong we need a strong fleet of young generations of youngsters who don't buy into this agenda. It's going to be necessary, I think, more and more and more so as time passes. That was an aside from the butter conversation, but um so let's see, where do we want to go from here? So okay, let's get back to butter. And butter and lard used to be the primary fats that were in the American diet before liquid oils were available, before there were grocery stores. It's like, hey, these are the animals we raise. We raise, dairy cattle, we raise pigs, and they provide an astoundingly nourishing source of fat. And so these two fats used to be the primary fats in the American diet. They're making a comeback, and we actually sell organic lard on our farm site. We have we've had four pigs that we harvested and that we raised and harvested, purely 100% organic diet. And they ate the most outlandish diet for pigs. Really, people who just raise pigs to like, um, they're like, oh, like somebody that I know in our community is like, oh, I'm raising two pigs. I keep them in a trailer. I'm like, what? You keep them where? Like, for some reason, we just think of like, some people have this notion that raising animals means inhumane treatment and like poor diet. And sure, this happens in CAFOs, and I am going to be deep diving into CAFOs and global, whatever you want to call it, climate change, warming, and the myths around this, the reality around this, how we can really start turning this around. Because having two cows on our property now has really opened my eyes to, wait, this whole agenda, like I knew, was total BS. But now actually having cows, seeing how they interact with the land, with each other, what they're all the cow pies they produce, how it's actually providing nourishment to the land. Oh man, it's like we need to get clear about this topic. It's something I'm very passionate about. I'll be talking more about that. But here's the thing. Animals, when they're raised in a humane way, when they're not confined, when they're allowed to roam around and graze and walk the land, this is one of the best ways to, one, raise animals, to two, produce food that's nourishing and healthy, right? Because the fat coming from a dairy cow that has been confined or fed GMOs or antibiotics or been inoculated, then that nutritional quality is going to be very different than the cow who's outside roaming in sunlight and eating non-pesticide grass and natural grasses, native grasses, and so forth, right? So um we have to understand that, um, one, quality matters. Two, we cannot just assume that if somebody has animals that they're raising them in a way, that it destroys the climate and and is like bad for your health. Okay, so this is bringing me back to our roots around animal husbandry and those practices, before these, basically, really, their confinement feeding lots for animals. And sure, yeah, of course, those are bad. Those create more carbon emissions. It's horrible for the climate. It's horrible for our reliance on fossil fuels to make that whole situation happen. Yeah, that is a really bad way to raise animals, okay? But we have to look at the other side of the coin. We have animals outside grazing in sunlight, eating, a natural diet, not getting jabbed, not getting administered antibiotics, etc. So butter and lard used to be the primary fats in the American diet. And you know we've gone away from this, especially when the whole heart disease, heart health agenda came onto the scene and brainwashed everyone to swap lard for Crisco. I mean, Crisco looks like lard, so it's like in our brains something was like, oh, this is so similar. But when it comes down to a nutritional standpoint, a molecular standpoint, um, Crisco is like an absolute time bomb for your health, as well as other liquid vegetable oils. And Crisco is just basically um, canola oil and vegetable oils that have been hydrogenated. And that's the type of stuff that's going to get you in trouble with your health. So, butter in the form of fresh butter, cultured butter, clarified butter is used everywhere around the globe. Every tradition uses some sort of butter, okay? It's a staple cooking fat. if you're concerned about butter and cholesterol, let's dissolve this myth right away. And we will, as I get into deeper and deeper into the episode. But during the time in history when heart disease rates escalated, most notably was from about 1910 to 1970, and still they're going up today. But this was a huge increase in heart disease and heart disease events, and the proportion of traditional animal fats, particularly lard and butter, declined in the American diet from 83% to 62%. And butter consumption in particular during that time dropped from 18 pounds per person per year to 4 pounds per person per year. And heart disease rates skyrocketed during that time. So, during World War II, there was a food shortage, and this included butter. And it was at this time when margarine and all the liquid oils, which they'd existed before then, but they took off around this time, and people started replacing processed. They started using the processed liquid vegetable oils instead of butter and lard. Now we all know the result of this, or maybe you don't, but the result is that it contributed to more heart disease, more clogged arteries, more obesity, more type 2 diabetes, more hormonal imbalances, and more cancer, to name a few. Um, Now, if you're still someone who's questioning cholesterol, that's okay. But this is also one of my favorite topics. I will always talk about it because cholesterol is literally one of the most important molecules in our body. But if you think it's still bad for you, or you're questioning cholesterol, I can say from being in private practice for my in my homeopathy practice and my ancestral diet practice for the past 15 plus years, the sickest people I have seen have the lowest cholesterol levels. Okay, that that is across the board, so apparent. So there's such a correlate connection there. And this is not the story we're being told. We're told lower, healthier. Absolutely not. Absolutely not what I've seen. And I see people's cholesterol levels every day. And what I have seen is the lower the cholesterol levels, the worse somebody's health. And the longer it takes somebody to recover from whatever health condition they're struggling with, the lower the cholesterol. And here's one reason why. You need cholesterol in order to make steroid hormones. If you don't have steroid hormones, you don't have a sex drive, or you cannot procreate, or you cannot make any of the steroid hormones. So your hormone panel becomes deficient. And this very much, LDL cholesterol is very much um, involved in making and synthesizing steroid hormones. Okay. And so LDL cholesterol, this is a one way, major way and pathway that your body makes steroid hormones, is that the combination of LDL cholesterol plus 312 nanometer light, which is what UVB light, that's the light frequency. This is how your body puts those two things together, and it makes steroid hormones. If somebody's like, my vitamin D levels are low, almost always LDL is low, because you need LDL cholesterol in order to make vitamin D, which is a steroid hormone. Okay, the medical doctors, I don't know if they're just dumb or they're going along with an agenda, but this is what, if I can know and understand this, and I haven't been to official medical school training for allopathic medicine, it's like, okay, how can any physician feel good about making a suggestion to take a statin drug or taking measures to lower your cholesterol when, you know, lowering cholesterol means more deficient hormones, and the more deficient hormones you have, then you're setting yourself up for cancer. and you're setting yourself up for poor immune function, and you're setting yourself up for detox issues. Now, obviously I'm passionate about that subject. It drives me nuts, like how this correlation isn't being made, and people just hear something in a lecture in a student hall, and they're like, oh yeah, we should get our patients on statin drugs because cholesterol is bad and causes heart disease. It's like, I mean, I know there are some more well informed and rogue allopathic physicians out there, and thank God for that. Hopefully there'll be more and more, but this is something that, if your doctor is telling you this, they're a complete idiot. I'm sorry, but that's just, they don't understand how your body makes hormones, and that's a very basic thing to understand and be able to understand and comprehend. And if they don't get this, you should fire them. Just point blank. I'm going to continue to talk about cholesterol, the benefits of, and so forth throughout this episode. But if you think you need less of it, from a dietary standpoint, you actually need more. And if you think you need to be eating less butter, you quite likely need to be eating more butter. And there are many health reasons attributed to this that I'm also going to cover throughout this episode. Before I move forward with the specifics about butter from a nutritional standpoint, I have an announcement that I'm super stoked about, and that is I'm going to be offering my ancestral health certification course in person at our farm in New Mexico this June 28th through 30th. This is going to be a masterclass teaching you how to create individualized diet and sunlight heating protocols and plans for your clients. And currently, this course is available online. There's actually online enrollment open now until just for a few more days, I think till the 23rd or 25th of February. However, I'm going to be offering the in-person masterclass version this June. And actually, at a special rate, I'm going to discount it by 1K to take the class in person. And there's many reasons for that. It's like, hey, organic food is more expensive, so nope. This is, I think, in-person learning is invaluable, so much so that I'm reducing the price of the in-person class and training, because the transmission, the connection that happens in this space, not only that, we're going to be learning outside and being in nature and being in sunlight and being on our farm here, which is a very low EMF environment, which is a very non-toxic environment. And this is exactly the healing environment that we want to create for our clients, that we want to teach them, hey, this is the environment you get well in, you heal in, that we want to encourage, that we want to teach them how to do. Why not learn how to do so in person in that same exact environment? So I'm looking forward to this. And one of my favorite bonuses of having the in-person class here is that we're going to get to cook and enjoy an ancestral foods meal at the end of each day, which is awesome. And of course, that's going to involve steaks and butter and all of the good things, right? So if you want to learn more about the Ancestral Health Certification Masterclass, you can head over to my site, heatharshepard.com, and you can go to the Ancestral Health Certification tab and click down on the masterclass. I'm limiting space to 10 students for the in-person class. Okay, let's deep dive into the land of butter. Let's keep this conversation going, and why you need to be eating more, not less, and why you need to toss all of the BS about dietary cholesterol being dangerous for your health, to your health, out the window. Let's start with the fact that 38 million Americans have type 2 diabetes. These are the reported cases. So, there are millions of more people who have blood sugar struggles and type 2 diabetes than that, which is insane. Now, let's not forget that in 2022, 1.9 million new cancer cases, not combined, just new. These are just the new cancer cases were reported. And that's not even, that's only the reported cases. I can't tell you how many people have this disease, reach out for alternative support, and these aren't the reported cases. So there are, that number is low, is what I'm saying. And let's not forget that 140 million babies are born each year, and 5% are born via IVF. Now, if I'm doing the math here, I'm horrible at math. It's my worst, it's always been my worst subject. But if I'm doing the math here, that's 7 million babies born via IVF. What does this mean? Infertility is at an insanely high rate, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The bigger that number gets, infertility, that's how we move towards extinction. Okay. Now, of course, we can't blame all of this on butter, right? It's like, okay, let's be real. And I'm all about taking a holographic approach. There's always many hands in the pot as to why somebody's struggling with a certain health condition. But what we can blame every single one of these issues on is poor hormone and poor metabolic health. We are weakening as a species. And if you're listening to this podcast, one of the things that I'm passionate about is teaching people how to thrive, even amidst all this nonsense we're being thrown, present day, i.e., bug farms and insect farms versus eating, um, animal protein, right? But butter is one way we revitalize and strengthen the human race. This may sound over the top. You're like, okay, yeah, that's a little extreme, Heather. But when you understand the fuel that the body needs in order to support hormone production, hormone release, hormone synthesis, to support fertility, to support blood sugar levels, to support energy production, well, then this story about butter might start to make a little bit more sense. And I hope as we continue with this conversation, it makes more and more sense to you. So, let me see and let me try to help you make some more sense of this, and as to how eating more butter will strengthen us as us humans as a species. So, first, let me just get clear about what butter actually is. Somebody came to our farm and they bought milk and they're like, I want to make butter. And I'm like, amazing, but you're going to need more cream than that. You need cream to make butter. Okay. Butter comes from the butter fat in milk. And this is commonly found in cows, but it's also found in many other mammals. Mammals produce milk. Okay. Goats, sheep, buffalo, camels as an example. We have an A2 Jersey cow on our farm because Jerseys are known for producing rich buttermilk. And of course, I did a whole podcast on A2 dairy, but when the cow is carrying A2 genetics versus A1 genetics, then the body tends to digest, absorb, assimilate, utilize that dairy much more efficiently and effectively, and often without the health side effects that can come from A1 dairy, like feeling mucusy, like getting diarrhea, like getting stomach cramps after you eat it. This is often attributed to A1 dairy. We specifically got an A2 Jersey cow to avoid this issue for our own personal use, but also for our community. We want to be providing the healthiest product for our community and for ourselves as well. Now, Jerseys don't produce as much milk as, say, a Holstein does, but the butter fat that Jerseys produce is superior to other breeds of cows and mammals. And I really wanted to have a source where I could make our homemade butter for us, and so this is why we went with a Jersey cow. But I'm going to mention that sheep have incredible butter fat content as well, and you get cream from butter fat, and you make butter from cream. Okay, I think that makes sense. I think it's a general understanding, but honestly, I could be wrong because somebody thought they could make butter from milk, and I had to explain you need cream to make the butter. So anyway, there are various forms of butter that you can make, and this often varies depending on geographical location. So, for example, many people living in tropical environments eat more ghee than butter, at least from a traditional standpoint. Ghee has been processed in a way that allows it to have a longer shelf life than butter, and it can withstand hot, tropical temperatures without spoiling. This was an ingenious approach for, say, where's ghee more popular? Well, in equatorial regions like India, like Africa, and many other places. But this was an ingenious way. But oh my gosh, how do we extend the life of this product, especially before refrigeration, so that we can call on it and utilize it and so forth. And so when you can turn butter into ghee, and this will allow for that longer shelf life, withstanding, hotter temperatures that are present in the tropics. Cultured butter is said to have been kind of stumbled upon by the Europeans by accident. Farmers would store cream and save up their cream stores until they had enough for making butter. This is what we do here on the farm also. And I'll take the cream, I'll scoop it off the top, and I'll save it in a bowl. And then when I have a sufficient amount, I'll whip it into butter. But what they found was that the cream would ferment by, they didn't really have proper refrigeration back in the day. And so what happened is the cream would start to ferment and would develop beneficial bacteria cultures in the butter, in the cream. And so this is what real cultured butter is. It's fermented, it contains a host of beneficial bacteria. This is the type of butter that I like making best from our Jersey cream, because it has this nutritional superiority to it in a way, because it has these beneficial bacteria that most people need a lot more of in their diets. So um, culturing the butter not only increases the longevity regarding shelf life, but it also adds a huge nutritional and gut supportive benefit as well. Now, regular butter, just you go to the store, you get a stick of butter. It's simply butter fat that is churned, whipped into butter. Making butter today is far easier than it was even 100 years ago. I did a podcast on how to make butter um, not too far back, and I walk you through that. And honestly, it's so easy. All you need is a KitchenAid or a hand mixer and heavy cream. That's all you need to make butter. People think, oh my God, making butter, I'm going to have to put it in a jar and shake it for hours. My hand's going to fall off. You don't need to do that anymore. You just need a good hand mixer, KitchenAid, and you can make incredible homemade butter, including cultured butter. Okay. And if you want to learn how to make butter, I did a whole podcast on that, and you can check that out. I also talk about some of the more nutritional properties of butter in that episode. It's a food talk episode, how to make homemade butter. And you can check that out if you're inspired about butter and making your own after this episode. Let's talk about quality. So, sure, you can go to the grocery store and buy organic or grass fed butter. That's terrific when the following are available: gold standard for butter made on the farm from fresh cream. That's the gold standard. I know everyone's like, hey, Heather, I don't have a cow in my backyard, so that's not even attainable for me. But you might have somebody in your community who does have a cow in their backyard. So don't limit it to yourself. We all need community. There's no iron farm, so you seek this out. Okay. And in the States, this is often sold by small family farms. You can go to a site called realmilk.com, and you can see, hey, here are the people who sell real milk, aka unpasteurized milk, and there's a list by state for people who sell this. You can contact somebody on that list and say, hey, do you know somebody who has butter or sells butter or cream, and then make your own. Literally, it takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to make your own butter. Look for cream or butter sold by Amish farmers, by regenerative farmers, and you can find other resources offered by small family farms that actually ship their butter and other farm fresh products. This is the gold standard. The grocery store is there's so many ways you can get around, and this is something I'm going to talk about more in the very near future. we can't trust that something is grass fed if the label says grass fed. There are so many loopholes around this, and so many people are now understanding that this is a hot word. This is a put grass fed on a label and you're going to have more people buying it. It's a buy-in. It's something that people are looking for. There's a high demand right now. And so what's going on is processors are getting finding ways around this. And this is why I am not saying, this is why I'm emphasizing that the gold standard is to get your cream from a farmer, a local farmer, somebody you can order online from who is a real farmer, who's not just putting their has a confined feeding operation and feeding them grass pellets while they're in like a confined area and calling it grass fed. I'm not kidding you. They can do this now, and I'm going to talk about that more so you can better understand how to get a truly grass fed product. But one way to do that, especially around butter, get it from a farmer, get it from Amish farmers, regenerative farmers. There's some really good online sources as well that are more trustworthy, that abide by these, these quality standards that I talk about on this podcast. The grocery store is there's more loopholes now. So there's more ways around this. Oh, I can label it grass fed, but is it really? You can understand from a more clearly by going smaller, by staying local, by going to one of these other places for your butter and food resources, to know, hey, is this really a good product? Is this really grass fed, right? So, okay, I actually want to talk now about some of the health properties of butter. There are many things to talk about here that also, let's see how we go here because there's so many health properties of butter. And I feel like maybe some of you will be into this, but I don't want to bore all of you. So, but let's just start off here. Um, with the big guns. So vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is not the same as vitamin K, like the vitamin K shot they tell you you need to give your baby when it's born or else it's going to bleed out if it falls. Unbelievable, honestly. Such a fear tactic. Would I give my baby a vitamin K shot at birth? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's a different episode. Okay. Vitamin K2 though is different. Okay. It's a different form of K. It comes from raw and cultured dairy. There's some other sources as well. Raw butter, cream, whole milk. Another reason why I encourage you to get butter from a local source because you have more of a chance of having that butter be actually raw, okay, from raw cream. If it's sold in the grocery store, forget it. It's going to be pasteurized. So heat kills vitamin K2. It's destroyed by heat, it's destroyed by pasteurization. And but why is this important? Vitamin K2 is needed to transport calcium into the bones. So if you're not getting adequate amounts of this vitamin, your bone health will suffer and you're going to be more susceptible to metabolic imbalances such as leptin resistance. And while diet and meal timing have heaps to do with leptin resistance, so too, this is a little aside, but I'm all about the asides. So too does suppressive therapies such as antibiotics, jabs, and other allopathic meds. These substances destroy the gut clocks and the timing mechanisms in your body in huge ways. And they're very powerful forces when it comes to your metabolic and hormone health, which people refer to leptin as the master hormone. Okay. Now, food, so we have to, what I'm saying, why I'm bringing this up is we have to take this holistic approach, this holographic approach, because, yeah, we have to understand, hey, I'm starting to eat a really good diet and I'm doing this whole leptin resistance thing, but I'm not making the progress I want to see. Well, when food doesn't cut it for you, that's when you have to look to other resources and modalities like sunlight and homeopathy. Now, food will start to rectify this issue. Um, but if you're in an advanced state of leptin resistance, as I mentioned, you're going to need a good dose of sunlight RX therapy and homeopathy to clean up this issue. It may be deep seated. There could be a deep genetic predisposition here. But vitamin K2 is one nutrient that absolutely people are so deficient in today because why? Of pasteurization. Vitamin A and D are also very strong, very rich source in butter. Vitamin A in butter is one of the most readily absorbed versions of way to get vitamin A into your body. And it's utilized very well compared to other sources. I want to help you get clear about something. Carrots don't contain vitamin A, nor do any other plants contain vitamin A. They contain carotenoids such as beta carotene, and carotenoids can be converted to vitamin A in the gut. But let's be honest, how many people have a really solid, well functioning gut? I don't know too much of anyone who has who's like my gut health is amazing, right? And this conversion in the gut is often not optimal, meaning it often doesn't happen. It also requires a lot of energy. It requires you to have a healthy gut. So maybe a kid or somebody who hasn't been jabbed or given heaps of antibiotics, they're going to have a better conversion rate of beta carotene and other carotenoids to vitamin A in the gut. But most people, this is poor. This is a poor conversion. And oftentimes it doesn't even happen. So while I'm a fan of carrots and other foods containing carotenoids for other reasons, vitamin A and hormone health are not the reasons because this conversion in the gut is poor. It's inefficient. When I speak of dietary vitamin A, I'm referring to retinol, not beta carotene or other carotenoids that are found in plant foods. Carotenoids are not equivalent to the animal form of vitamin A, which is retinol in the body. Okay, so and from animal sources, vitamin A, retinol, animals, humans. Okay, um, and I would even go out on a limb and say every long-term vegetarian has a compromised vitamin A cycle, meaning this conversion in the gut, if you don't have, heaps of animal fats like butter in your diet, it's going to be even more poor. It's going to be even more ineffective, inefficient. Now, the vitamin A cycle is needed in the skin. Okay. You all know of this as melanopsin. Melanopsin binds to vitamin A in various parts of it, all throughout your body. The skin is one area, and the eye, the retina, is another area where vitamin A notably binds to melanopsin. And this combination, this binding of vitamin A and melanopsin, plays a huge role in the state of your circadian biology, in your hormone health, your metabolic health, in the health and function of your brain and heart. When this cycle is broken, when you don't get enough sunlight exposure, when you don't eat enough animal fats, when you have a lot of blue light exposure to your eyes and to your skin, what happens is the cells cannot repair or regenerate. And this is a beeline to chronic diseases like cancer. And you can prevent all of this simply by eating animal forms of vitamin A, such as truly grass fed butter, combined with getting your sunlight RX on. And this is one of the most health supportive things you can do from a circadian standpoint, from a longevity standpoint. Remember, vitamin A in the form of retinol only comes from animal foods, not from plant foods. And this is the form that your body needs the most of to make hormones and for your body to actually benefit from this fat soluble vitamin. Vitamin D is like opening a can of worms always. First, when I talk about vitamin D, I'm always referring to vitamin D either from sunlight or from animal fat, okay? Not from a supplement, not from a spurty D lamp. If I see someone in my practice with a low vitamin D level, I also know their LDL cholesterol is low. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute because I love cholesterol, but vitamin D is needed for thyroid health, for bone health, for gut health, for brain health, for heart health, for maintaining a healthy weight, for healthy immune function. Vitamin D is misleading because it's actually not a vitamin, it's a hormone. It's a steroid hormone. And you need LDL cholesterol in adequate amounts in order to produce vitamin D. The best way to optimize your vitamin D levels is to marry a diet rich in animal fats like butter and fresh cream and wild caught seafood with sunlight. Your entire skin is layered with cholesterol sulfate, unless you slather on sunscreens or lotions or heaps of essential oils. Okay, if you're not doing any of that stuff, then the cholesterol sulfate that lines your skin, what happens is when you're getting your sunlight RX on and you're outside in sunlight, when that 312 nanometer light, that UVB light hits your skin, as long as you've preconditioned your skin with AM sunlight, right, that I teach you in the sunlight RX, then the cholesterol lining your skin will absorb that light, and it takes that the vitamin D, takes it to the liver to get activated. The liver takes it to the kidney to get activated, and then it returns to the liver to get activated. Then you have vitamin D. But the cholesterol sulfate lining your skin plays a huge role in this initiation to the activation of vitamin D. So, um, if you don't know the Sunlight RX, go to my site, heathershepard.com, and you can get a copy of the Sunlight RX ebook. There's a tab on the menu of my site, and you can get yourself a copy. This is a 4-step protocol teaching you how to use sunlight from a therapeutic context. Okay. Now, when you combine your Sunlight RX practice with a diet rich in vitamin D, butter, grass-fed fats, wild-caught seafood, fish eggs, you'll have more energy, your hormones will be more stable. This is a huge way to prevent cancer and heart disease. Sleep will improve. And how simple is this? To just eat more butter and get more sunlight. Honestly, the path to healing is much simpler than we make it out to be, or that we've been told. Oh, we need to do all these heaps of bullshit protocols in order to be healthy. Eat butter, go outside, eat animal protein. Okay. We want to pop pills and supplements and then, get back to our gaming or Netflix, but it doesn't work that way. You have to eat well, you have to get outside. It's often that simple, at least from a foundational standpoint. Okay, let's get into cholesterol, one of my favorite topics because we've been so brainwashed around this topic, and people are still scared shitless of eating too much cholesterol. It's okay if you are, but let's keep going. Let's deep dive. Let's slow this down. Let's break it apart for you so you can see um how it benefits you. So, cholesterol is your vital force. It's your source of hormones, it's your source of immunity, it's your source of detoxification. How many people have issues with um, histamine? How many people have issues with methylation? Right? Okay. Cholesterol is involved in both of these things. Cholesterol also helps with cellular repair, it plays a huge role. So, of course, the powers that be are going to tell you eat less of it and keep your levels low so you can stay sick, controllable in their system, right? So, cholesterol is a precursor to vitamin D. Okay. LDL cholesterol is a precursor to vitamin D. Vitamin D is a steroid hormone produced from LDL cholesterol. Vitamin D is needed for almost every function in the body: bone health, mineral metabolism, nervous system support, blood sugar regulation, immune function, hormone health. It's insanely vital to our existence and to our thriving as a species. But guess what? You can't make vitamin D if you don't have enough LDL cholesterol. One of my main goals for the individuals who come to me seeking dietary work and support, um, is to help increase, not decrease, their LDL cholesterol levels, because most people, their LDL is too low. I don't care what the lab test says. Oh, high, and it's 100. It's like, nope, that's dangerously low. Forget if your labs show your LDL being too high. It's likely BS. They want your LDL low because it causes chronic disease. It gets you in the statin industry. And that, what does that do? So many things. Okay. Having your LDL too low increases risk of cancer, and the lower, the higher, the drastically in, there's, boom, cancer rates go way up. It drains calcium from your bones, hollowing them out. It depletes your immune system, and it makes you susceptible and vulnerable to chronic disease. Cholesterol is found in butter, and thank God for that. If you want to have a healthy baby, if you want healthy hormones, if you want a healthy sex drive, eat more butter. Okay. There's just a couple more things I want to mention from a nutritional standpoint with regard to butter. And these are some aspects that may not be as known or talked about with regard to the nutritional properties of butter. One is iodine. So if the cow that your butter comes from is truly eating a grass-fed diet outside grazing on real grass, this your butter is going to be a rich source of iodine. This is a mineral that almost every single person on the planet, at least in developed countries, is deficient in. Levels are depleted by anti-bios, by artificial light, by non-native EMF, by sugar, by processed food. Soy is huge. So just think of, if if you're eating butter from a cow who was fed soy, which many of them are, it's cheap protein, it's subsidized protein, you're not going to have any iodine in your butter. Okay. Soy blocks iodine absorption anyway. Vegetable oils are another, they also deplete iodine levels. So, of course, like, you listen to this and you're like, oh shit, who's not deficient in iodine, right? The modern lifestyle fuels iodine deficiency. And most people are at high risk of being deficient or are deficient in this mineral, and this causes a host of health issues. You don't need that much iodine in your diet, but you need some. This is a trace mineral, right? But we need some. And, you know, add to the list processed salt and not consuming enough wild caught seafood or real butter or seaweed. This will all add fuel to the iodine deficiency fire. Butter from animals who are truly allowed to graze on grass outside in sunlight, it's a good source of dietary iodine. Yet another case to up your butter intake. Um, there's a couple more things, just a couple more I want to mention here. CLA, which is conjugated linoleic acid. This is a powerhouse fatty acid that is well known and established for its anti-cancer properties. It is undeniable how strong the anti-cancer properties are of CLA. The richest sources of CLA are from butter, from cows grazing on grass, and especially from raw cream turned into butter. Okay. Cows who are not fed grains have higher levels of CLA. Um, conjugated linoleic acid is also found in eggs from hens grazing on pasture, beef from grass-fed cows, and lamb or mutton from sheep allowed to graze on grass. So, I think that was a lot of info when it comes to the nutritional properties of butter. And honestly, I had to draw it in. I had to reel it in a little bit. I didn't even mention all of them, but I hope this helps you understand why I suggest eating more of this food from animals truly raised on grass, and not less of this food. And I hope it helps to clear up why you shouldn't be concerned with high cholesterol. In fact, we need to be more concerned with low cholesterol and eating more cholesterol. How can we get more dietary cholesterol into the body? This is going to be the healthiest, strongest population. They don't want you to eat this because they want you to be weak. They want to control you. They want you to be infertile. And cholesterol, um, changes that whole thing. Okay. It makes you stronger overall. It makes us stronger as a species. And I hope you feel inspired to eat butter to your heart's content and desire, with the only limit being how much your body is actually wanting, needing, and craving. If you've deprived yourself of butter, let's say you've been a vegan for a while and you just start to eat more butter or animal products, when you start to add these foods back into your diet, you may notice that your body cannot get enough. You're like, oh my God, I could keep eating this. And this will eventually balance out. But if you're somebody who hasn't eaten enough animal fats, like butter, you may crave more. Your body may need more initially. And this is a similar story with sunlight. If you've deprived yourself for so long because you've been told it causes skin cancer and whatever else crap they tell us, the same thing. You're going to need more at the beginning of your practice, and things will eventually balance out when your body starts to meet its needs. Next week, I have an exciting episode coming your way all about how to navigate your relationships with your spouse or partner, children, family when it comes to the circadian lifestyle. When you start to understand more deeply the impact of, say, artificial light, of non native EMFs, of excessive intake of plant foods on health, of limiting protein intake, and then you start to hear like, oh my gosh, how damaging these things are, how it impacts health in a really destructive way. And then you decide to go all in, but your family or your spouse is resistant or thinks you need to be checked into a loony bin, right? This can bring up a lot of tension and issues at home. And next week, I'm inviting my wife, Jen Antil, onto the podcast. She's a psychotherapist, I should say a holistic psychotherapist, and is also very familiar and well versed in the circadian world. And we're going to help you navigate this very important topic, so you all can support your circadian biology and have healthy, thriving relationships all at the same time. So I look forward to seeing you next week to have a chat about that super important topic. I'll see you then.